Hello. Good afternoon, if that's the time of day you are here with me or practicing. So, what you need for today: 2 pillows, 2 blankets. Or you could also, if you have bolsters, you can always use bolsters and replace for the pillows. So, we're going to come down into constructive resting. In a few moments. So we'll start there. So flat on your back, knees bent, feet planted. But I'm going to cue a breath exercise into the rib cage. So this is kind of the area, again, just sort of a continuation even from this morning's class. So you can always go back and if you missed that and do that another time, but just kind of working with like the thoracic spine and any congestion in and around the diaphragm area, which can just get tight just in response to life. And it's just good to free that and get the lymphatic system moving, especially right now during the springtime. So on your right hand side underneath there is a lot of the internal organs, but in particular the liver. So it may be a little bit tender. So it's always just the liver is pretty dominant in the springtime, so just a little extra love and nourishment there. So I'm going to cue you something when you're on your back, but I'm going to show you right now just because when I'm describing it, it might be like, oh wow, really? Like we're going to do that. So it's much easier to access when you are laying down, but I'm going to kind of give you a little show here. So what I'm actually going to cue you to do is just tuck your fingers underneath your rib cage. So when we take an inhale, you'll actually see if you can find a little bit more space. I'm kind of exaggerating it, but sort of digging it down in there. And then on the exhale, we'll kind of press with the hand. So when you take your inhale, we'll just slide the fingers all along here. So we're going to do this on both sides, but I just wanted to show you that. So the inhale, and once you're laying down, it usually softens up a little bit, but it can be quite tender. So only really digging around, being careful kind of up around the center point here. But yeah, see how it goes. All right, so make your way down into constructive resting. When you come into this posture, you can always support underneath your head, underneath your hips, your back, anything that you need. But I do often just sort of cue it to come right down to the floor. So it should feel comfortable. So again, if you have any tender points, bring a little bit of support. Find about hip distance between your feet and your knees. Wider if that feels more supportive. Just find the place where it feels like the structure of your bones just kind of sink into place fairly effortlessly when you place your feet down there. And you can just rest your hands alongside your body or on your body. Find a little bit more space between your shoulder blades, length to the back of your neck. Maybe close your eyes. Just starting to feel yourself land here. Maybe each breath in feels that expansion. And each breath out just lands your body a little bit heavier, a little bit more willing to surrender to this force of gravity. Just finding a nice even pace to the breath. Nothing forceful, but definitely offering a sense of presence, just a slow, deep inhale. Finding a little bit more length to the exhale. Noticing those little bits of movement in the back body as it lands heavier into the space, kind of softening and easing into some relaxation. we can begin to kind of cue the mind to slow down, to relax, as we begin to initiate that with the tension, the holding response in the body. Just scanning through with the breath, finding places to soften. Notice if you're engaging or gripping. There's tendencies around the inner thighs and hips and even the shoulder area. Soften through the palms of the hands. And just become a little more aware of the edges of your rib cage. This place where the diaphragm nestles up into. So there's this muscle, it's automatically supporting. We don't have to engage our diaphragm, but each time we inhale, it lowers down into the body to make space for the room, for the lungs and the chest to expand. And then as we breathe out, the diaphragm gently rises, helping to expel the air. Maybe you can just imagine or visualize this diaphragm just flowing in the body. The body here, the hip. Find a place just to pause into. Give it a good squeeze. You take a full breath into your ribs and a full breath out. Extend your left leg. Your left hand grabs your right knee, your right hand goes out to the right side, rolling over to your left. Just a gentle stretch and twist here. You're rotating around. You can even extend your right leg if that feels good. Just take a full breath here. And come on back up. And then drawing your left knee in, giving it a squeeze here. Little bits of movement perhaps. A little bit of resistance as you pull the hands into the knee or the back of the thigh. Press the leg into the hands. A little bit of movement. Take a full breath in, maybe a place of stillness. Right hand grabs that knee, roll over to right side, left hand out to your left side. Just kind of a twist into your low back area. Full breath into your ribs. And then come on back up to center. All right, so we'll start with this breathing practice. So come right down to just above your right hip bone, right at the very bottom of your rib cage, and just start to kind of feel around there. So that kind of creeping of the fingertips underneath. Your left hand, might even fingertips might kind of join in with that. All right, so just kind of hook them under, and then take a full breath in. And then on your exhale, actually press your palm into your ribs. And then we'll just creep another little inch or so up underneath the ribs, up a little further. This might be starting to get tender, kind of getting into where we might touch into the liver, but also just a lot of that can be stored here. So find a place, a little bit of pressure, take a full breath in as if you're lifting that rib cage. And then exhale, press the palm. You can even use your left hand to support that, press into the ribs. And then just continuing to move up the side here. Take a full slow breath into the fingertips. Exhale, press into the ribs. Might be up close to this sort of joining point. Just take your time. press into the ribs. When you get up to where the rib cage meets your left side, you can kind of just touch in with both hands. Just kind of find a place, find a little bit of hook with your fingertips. Take a full breath in. And pressing the rib cage with your breath out. Starting to go down on the left side. So hooking, take a full breath in. Exhale, pressing the ribs. Just move another inch or so. Hook the fingers under, take a big breath in as if you're lifting the rib cage gently. Exhale, press the palm into the ribs. Just keep moving down that side until you get down towards your left hip bone, when the rib cage ends down to your waist. This can even bring about like slight sensations of feeling nauseous, so don't be surprised by that. I mean, you definitely don't want to do this on a full stomach. But really great exercise, especially if you're feeling pretty stressed. So doing this a few times, you'll always start on the right just for sake of digestion. And sometimes I'll even just kind of just touch your fingers underneath, kind of add a little bit of pressure and creep all the way up the lining of that bottom rib and then go down your left. You can do that a few times, and even that breathing and the pressure, I would spend a good couple minutes doing that. Could even do it with a warm oil on your belly, but a great time of year in the spring to do that. All right, so just a little bit of pressure. Then take your hands, rest them on your belly or down at your side, and just take a few breaths into the space, just noticing if you've released some tension. Nice. Come on over to your side. Come on up. We're going to build an elevated bridge shape here. So I actually have two blankets because we want to stack these pretty high. So I have two here. This is where the hips are going to go. Put your blanket or one of your pillows on top. So we've got quite a stack. And then another pillow, if you'd like it under your head. It may feel like too much, just depending on the pillow that you've chosen. So I would suggest coming around and sitting down on this. So you actually want to sit in about the center of it, so your hips are lifted. Come on back. So, yeah, that pillow's a bit too big. So hips are elevated here. The low rib cage is just kind of hovering in the space. All right, so we've done this before. Just taking a few breaths here, make sure that the shoulders feel okay. So you find this elevation. Again, just really good for the lymphatic system, the digestive system, just getting some of the immune boosting kind of movement that we can find in the belly, especially coming just in a gentle inversion here. Just focusing on the rib cage, a few deep breaths here. If it's comfortable to bring your arms out to the side or even a T, just in a nice supportive, relaxed shape. Soft through the palms and the fingers. Three more full, soft breaths. Slowing down the exhale. Nice. And bring your hands down at your side or towards the cushion that you're sitting on. Just to give you a little bit of support, we're going to send the feet up towards the sky. So you might have to adjust your hips. It should feel fairly effortless, kind of to hold the legs here, the way that in the amount of support you have underneath your hips, it should tilt your pelvis up. So just starting to flex and extend through the feet and the ankles, just pointing the toes to your shins. Again, just this ability to use the body to support kind of down regulation in the mind and the thinking, if there's a lot of that going on. When we have the head lower than the heart and the belly, this is these reactions that happen in the body physiologically that send message to the brain to slow, especially when you're supported. All right, start to circle your feet. Change your direction. Nice. And just bend the knees towards you. Extend the feet up towards the sky. Send the heels wide. Bring them back together. Bend again through your knees. Heels to bum. Heels to sky. Send them wide. Back together. Just move a little bit through your legs. Any way that feels good for you. And then take a moment in a place where it feels like you can just kind of hang out with the legs, whether they're straight or knees slightly bent. And just allow them to kind of float above you. Just taking a few breaths here. And then bringing the feet back down. Letting them down onto your mat. And just take your time to slowly roll over to your side. And come on up. I'm just going to change the position here of this. So we're going to have the blanket. So hopefully you have a pretty solid kind of base here with your blanket. Bring your knees onto one of your pillows. So you're kind of moving towards a child's pose, a little bit more of a chest opener though. So knees to pillow. Bring one in snug in towards your hips as you start to fold over that. Then we're going to bring the elbows onto the blanket. And it's going to be a little bit further away from you, so the hips are not going to necessarily come right back towards your heels like they would in a child's pose. And pull them back though, rest your forehead on the blanket. So depending if this blanket between your waist and your thighs is feeling too full, you can always take that away if you need more support under your knees. If this is bothersome on your shoulders, you can bring your arms kind of underneath you or out to the side, anywhere just is a pretty comfortable, relaxed place. And just allowing the chest to melt down towards the floor. Just soft breaths into the low back space. Nice, take your time. Slowly come back up onto the hands, to the knees. We're going to turn and come onto your right knee and extend your left leg out to the side. All right, so rooting down through that left foot, bringing the right arm up and over, sending the hips forward, feeling length through that whole right side, support in the low body, so it lifts you up and over. Just taking a few breaths into the side. Nice release from that. Just right over to the other side. Right leg reaches out. Send your hips forward as you root down. Rise that left arm up and over. Nice, and then come on up. Okay, so stacking your pillows where they're gonna go underneath your knees. Take your 2 blankets. Depending on the size of your blankets, you may have to really adjust this, but we're gonna roll them up. It's about the size I've created. You're gonna make 2 rolls like that. Make sure they're like fairly like even and snug so that you can decide here as you snug them right close together. They should be, hopefully they're about the same size. And then you're going to sit in the space between, so your knees are supported with your pillows. And then come back over this. I'm going to pull them up probably towards your hips, the top of your pelvis. As you come over that, they should kind of feel in the space between the tops of the crest of your pelvis and your low ribs. They're going to get into the low ribs area because we want to have a little bit of pressure into the back of the diaphragm there. So you're going to come up. Your upper shoulders may or may not land. So depending on the blankets that you have, you may need to take one away. Might need to squish them up a bit more. Take a moment. It should feel like fairly comfortable. I shouldn't say fairly. It should feel very comfortable. But of course, it is this one, depending on the blankets you have, can be quite of an opener to your chest. So just decide, does this feel like a place I could kind of soften into, or is it going to start to, the sensations maybe are going to get a little stronger? Then let's ease off a bit. Send the arms out to a T. You might feel like you need something extra under your head. You may even want an eye pillow or a covering over your eyes. Just taking the time to just land into the shape. Notice if your breathing is feeling restricted. You can always adjust. But where can you, without effort, just moving into a place of ease and witness to how your body's breathing in this shape versus trying to breathe the body. After a few moments in stillness here, you may Just recognize or notice how the body can sink into the shape. Doesn't have to resist. Hopefully you've supported the back enough and underneath the knees enough. And everything just starts to relax into a place of ease. Maybe even notice where the mind wanders to. And does it remove itself from this shape and go into thinking? I'm just finding this practice to come back to. Come back to noticing the body and breathing. This practice of resting. Very different than flopping down or falling to sleep. They're very different states. Just as you would practice kind of any active or activity or movement in the body, it still requires, or it asks or requires, this sense of patience to find this kind of sense of sureness and stillness. Just finding the value of offering the body time to reset. Three more soft, even breaths here. Take your time, gather the arms back in close. Moving very slowly here. Just finding little movements to your feet as you start to bring your knees to a bend. I do find this can be a little tender depending on what's going on in your upper back area. You may want to push into your feet and lift your hips a few times and just kind of come back to a bit more of a neutral spine just to ease the body into that. So just lowering hips down again, lifting them back up again. Depending on how you're feeling, you might be able to start to slide those blankets out from underneath you. If not, just roll over to your side and take them out. Let your spine come all the way back down. Maybe back into that constructive resting shape where you were when we began. Just notice as your arms rest to your side or on your body, feet and knees about hip distance, maybe wider. How does the breath move in the body? And just take your time. Start to rock your head from side to side, just along the ridge of the occiput. And just gazing around your room or your space. Just noticing things, noticing off in the distance, the furthest you can see. When you're ready, draw knees towards you. Just rocking and putting a little bit of pressure into the low back space. Take your time, roll over to your side. Press into the hands to come up. And I'm not sure, I'd love to hear some feedback from this practice. I find quite this sort of opening in through the upper back. I do find I sort of feel very wakeful. I mean, back bends are very energizing and wakeful, but it can also still have this down-regulating effect. It can just kind of bring a sense of clarity and brightness, even if this was practiced in the evening or before bed. So just coming up to a comfortable seat, whether that's on your chair, a cushion, your mat, the floor, cross-legged or legs out in front of you, or sitting onto your shins. Just take a moment. Just feel the vertical spine grow tall, relaxed. Feel your low body. A lot of those postures can also stimulate some digestive movement. So always really ideal to drink lots of water after this practice, maybe some warm tea. Your hands out to your side, palms facing up. Just roll the shoulders back a little bit, reaching through the tips of the fingers. Take a full breath in as you reach the arms up. Exhale, hands down to your heart center, straight through, landing on your chest. Take a full breath in and a breath to empty. Thank you for sharing your practice. Namaste.